My name is Andrea. Welcome to this talk on human design. So before we get started, I want to share a couple of things. First of all, I want to share that I in no way refer to myself as an expert on human design. So the information that I'm going to share here is things that I've learned on a course I took last year on human design and things that I have found on the internet. None of it is my original information other than if I share like personal experiences or my personal experiences with human design. So lots of things that I don't know about human design. I'm just providing a little bit of a basic introduction of what I have learned. So please, if you have any things you want to add or share about it, or you notice that something I say doesn't resonate with what you learned about human design, please feel free to share it. And hopefully I'll be able to cover a lot of the basic things on the human design chart, but if you have questions, please feel free to ask them, and maybe we'll wait until the end if you're live here today, so that we can kind of have a flow with the presentation, and then anything that isn't covered you can ask, and I might not know the answer, I'll be very honest, but if I do, I'll share what I do know. So with that being said, I think we can get started with the presentation. Okay, so human design, what is it? This is something that I kind of didn't have that much luck at first finding a good definition of what human design is that really explains it in like a brief summary. This was the best explanation that I did find. It's a holistic self-knowledge system combining different elements from astrology, the I Ching, chakra system, and quantum physics. And it kind of creates like an energetic blueprint. My understanding is that it's kind of like a map showing how the energy flows in your aura and your body based on the time and place where you were born. Well, place matters because of the time zone and place in the world, and the way it draws an astrology based on where the sun, the moon, the planets were. And as you'll see as we get further into this presentation, there's a lot involved in the chart. So there's channels and gates, which we won't go into too much detail today. But just so you know, it's kind of very unique for each person, because based on the exact time that they were born, it's looking at all the energy that was surrounding them at that time, and then that kind of impacts where their energy centers are defined or undefined and how that energy flows. So where did human design originate from? So it said that this, sorry, I went a little bit too far back. Okay, so where did it originate? It said that this man named Alan heard a voice in the late 1980s. I found either 1987 or 1989 that explained to him the details of what we now refer to as human design. And then he spent 8 days and nights writing a book, so transcribing what the voice told him and writing this book, which became the basis for the principles of human design. He later changed his name to Ra Uru Hu, which he felt was better fitting for being the founder of human design. And it said that, you know, it's evolved a lot since that time, so things have been added. Now, if that content has been added because he's continued to hear that voice up until he died, I'm not sure. But I think the majority of it came during that time in the 1980s when he channeled this voice. So having a little bit of trouble with the slides here. Okay, the important thing with human design is to take what elevates you and resonates with you and leave the rest. So this is something that I've heard a lot of people that teach human design really emphasize, is that it's not meant to be like a rule book to tell you, okay, this is exactly who you are and how you have to act in the world. And what this says means that you have to be this way. It's meant to be kind of like a guide and help people tap into like the way their energy works, the way they're meant to, not, I don't even want to use the meant to, but the way that the energy flows in them and the way that's best suited for them to make decisions. But if it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. And you don't have to take it as like, that's it. It's this or nothing. And according to Ra Uru Hu, he always said, don't believe a thing I tell you, try it for yourself. So this is a good way to sum up the healthy approach to learning about human design. So the human design chart, or also known as the body graph, looks something like this. Hopefully all of you have had a chance to download it from the internet. And I know that there's usually a lot more, like the graph that you download on the internet, it's going to show more than just the person with the centers. There's also things on the side and numbers and sometimes arrows. We're going to keep it pretty basic today, but just to kind of go over some things about what the human design chart is. As I was saying at the beginning, it's kind of like an energy map showing where you have channels, gates, filled in centers and unfilled centers, saying where your energy is more like defined and where it flows more, where you have channels that are always connected. So it's, again, there's so much to it, but we'll cover, what we can today. And hopefully by the end, you'll have a better understanding of what the chart means for you and why you have some centers filled, why you have some gates full and some open. But basically that's what we refer to when we say, human design chart. It's this, the chart that hopefully all of you were able to download. So this is, I just wanted to give a picture of what the different centers are. And Laura, you were asking before we started the little triangle to the side, which I'm assuming it was either this one, the ego heart, or we have the spleen and the solar plexus to the side. So most of you might be familiar with the chakra system, especially if you're familiar with Dr. Joe's work and we do the blessing of the energy centers. In human design, there's actually 9 energy centers. So they have what we would refer to as not what we would refer to, but also human design refers to as the root, sacral, solar plexus, and then the heart center, throat, mind, and head. So those would kind of be the ones that we would typically know through like other forms of chakras. But in human design, we also have the splenic spleen center and the G center, the identity center. So if you look at the words next to each of these centers, it kind of gives you a little description of what each center represents or what energy is encompassed in those centers. And as we go on in the presentation, you'll learn that some people have these centers filled in or colored, and some people have them white or blank on their chart. And that represents if they have that center with a consistent energy, or if they don't have a consistent energy in that center and they pick up on other people's energy. So we're going to go back to this slide in a couple slides, because I want you to, after we talk about having filled in or unfilled centers, and you can go back to this slide and see if it makes sense to you, that, oh, I have this center unfilled, and this makes sense because I usually, I'm very open-minded or things like that. So we'll go back to that slide. Not sure why it keeps going back to my previous slide. Okay, so as I was saying, we can have centers that are colored in or blank, white. So it's when they're colored in, it means, or refer to it as being defined. And when it's uncolored or white, we call it undefined. So defined centers represent consistent, reliable energy that express the same way over time. So the way I was taught this, the way I learned this concept is that when we have that energy center filled in, it's colored in, we have like a consistent way of acting through that center. So say it's our head center that is filled in, the very top triangle, and it's colored in. We will typically have a consistent way of thinking, of processing our thoughts, whereas someone that has it open, so undefined centers are more flexible and open, learning and evolving through the influence of others. So if we have that center open, it means we don't have a defined way that we always do things in that center. So for example, if it's in the head, we don't have a defined way that we always think about things and process our thoughts. We're very open. We might process thoughts one way today and process things differently tomorrow. People that have like an open head center are often referred to as being, open-minded. They can see things from lots of different perspectives, like break things down and understand them in different ways on a day-to-day basis, where people that have that center defined are typically going to be more fixed on the way that they see things and not as open-minded. But again, this doesn't mean that if you have a center defined like the head, it doesn't mean that you're not an open-minded person. It just means that in general, you're typically going to be more fixed on the way you think about things. Hopefully that makes sense. So again, just to go over some things about the colored centers. So when I'm talking about colored centers, it's these areas on your chart that are colored in, and the colors don't matter. I know that, depending on where you get your chart from, it might have different shades, different colors, but it doesn't really mean anything as far as I know. I could be wrong on that. But this question was asked in the course I took last year, and the instructor said it doesn't mean anything. It's just the way that the body graph is made out to be. So you'll have the filled in colored centers, and then you'll have the blank white centers. So again, the centers that are colored in are going to be called the defined centers, and they become defined when you have a full channel between them. So see how this line here goes all the way from one center to another. It's fully colored in, even though it's half red and black, and then the other side is just black. This is called a full channel. And that's what makes centers defined, when they have that full channel. Let me give you an example. Like this one here, it doesn't have any full colored channels going to it. So that's why this one is undefined. This one, it just has to have one that is fully colored in. So that's what defines this center. And this one that's connected to it here, it's fully colored. So these are all defined. So that's what's gonna make it defined or undefined. And then the white centers, the undefined centers, is where you're most vulnerable to absorbing the energy from other people. This is where you also have the greatest potential for wisdom, because you're not fixed in doing things a certain way. So you're more open to learning new ways, to adapting to your environment. But for example, like this area over here is the solar plexus area. And if someone has it open, and this person has it wide open, so they don't have any gates or channels, like nothing colored in leading out from it, this person is going to be very open to the emotions of other people, because the solar plexus is an area of emotions. So they are likely to pick up on people's emotions around them. Whereas someone that has this area filled in, the solar plexus, they're usually going to have fixed emotions, or it's not a really good way to say it. They're going to kind of be fixed in their emotions and not really pick up on other people's emotions as much. Again, it's not to say it's like black or white and that you don't pick up on other people's emotions, but they're usually not as sensitive to other people's emotions as someone like this that has it completely open. So again, if we go back to this slide, if you just want to look it over and look quickly at your chart and what is open, undefined on your chart and what is colored in, and look at what these centers are, it might give you, I mean, you might not know too much about the centers right now. Some of them are pretty similar to the chakras. So like if you think about the throat center, it's communication, expression. If you have that center defined, colored in, you're likely someone that's going to be good at expressing yourself, at communicating. Whereas if you have that center open and undefined, you might get more choked up with your words, not really feel like you can express yourself fully or say what you want to say. Like you, in your mind, you have a thought of what you want to say, but then it doesn't come out right. Might be because that throat center is undefined and you don't have a consistent way of expressing yourself. I do have more slides about each center, but I put them at the end. If we have time, we can go over that, but I want to make sure that we do have time to go over, you know, a lot of the basics, because as I said, there's a lot to human design. And we can come back to the slide after as well, too. Okay, so here we're going to break it down a little bit more. So understanding the human design chart. So a lot of you might have had downloaded a chart that looks more complex like this with the, you know, you have the sides, you have the arrows at the top, you have the centers with all these little numbers and all the gates and channels. And then you have all this stuff at the end, at the side, which tells you your type. So this is what we're going to cover today. So we're going to go over type. We're going to go, and type is the unique way your energy flows. We're going to go over strategy. And this is the way that you make things happen most effortlessly. So the best way for you to kind of go forth in life based on the way your energy flows. Then we have the inner authority, which is how we best align with the right decision for ourselves. And then we have the profile, the number, it's 2 numbers. And this is kind of a representation of personality or your strengths in this lifetime, and some of the things that you're suited to like learn in this lifetime. So first we're going to go over type. So as I said before, it's the way your energy flows, and there's 5 types in human design. Here I've lumped generators and manifesting generators into one, just to kind of give you an overview of how much of the population is in each. A lot of people that work with human design, teach about human design, will actually lump generators and manifesting generators together because they have a lot of the same qualities. But we'll talk about them separate in today's presentation. But so we have manifestors, which are about 9% of the population. Then we have the generators and manifesting generators, which are about 70% of the population. So they make up the bulk of humanity. Then we have projectors, which are about 20% of the population. And then reflectors, which are very, very rare, less than about 1% of the population, or about 1% of the population. In my course that I did, there were no reflectors. I have yet to meet someone that has found out they are a reflector through human design. So if there is someone today that is a reflector, I'd love to hear about it, because yeah, from everything that I've learned, they are quite rare. So, and we'll learn more about the traits of each one. So first we'll talk about manifestors. So manifestors are the oh, the slide is being a bit silly. Manifestors are the initiators of the world. So they're here to get things done. Sorry, guys, having a little bit of technical difficulties with the slides. Maybe I just need to let it load for a sec. So manifestors are initiators, as I was saying before. They're the people that have, again, it's not just manifestors that are going to have ideas, but they're usually the ones that have the ideas to start a business, to create something, they generally are the people that get things started, but not necessarily finish them, because they don't have a consistent form of energy like generators do. And we'll talk about that in a minute as well. But they well, actually, I can say it here as the slide continues to load, hopefully. They don't have a defined sacral center, which is the life-giving center. It's the center for energy. And so they don't have a consistent form of energy. It's not that they don't have energy, they don't have a consistent form of energy like generators do. It looks like this slide is not going to work, so I'll try to remember everything that I had on it. They like to, or they generally have great ideas, and like I said, they'll get things going. They'll bring together the people to get that idea going, that business going, the creation going. But then they'll usually jump on to the next thing. They're not usually the ones that see it through, because again, they don't have that consistent energy to do the work for it. They are more the ideas, the creators. And they are often, they like to do things alone. They like to just go forth with their idea and run with it. And they're often, like they don't like being told no or waiting for permission. They usually like to just run with their idea. So the key for manifestors is to let the heart and what lights up their soul lead the way, trusting that others will follow. It can take some time for a manifestor's ideas to be seen and felt by others, but going forward without permission is the path forward for a manifestor. Okay, and we won't go over all this stuff on this slide today, but again, manifestors are about 9% of the population. Their strategy is to inform, meaning it's best if they tell people what they're doing, just so that other people don't feel left out or like kind of, what's the word, like suspicious about what they're doing. They don't necessarily have to ask for permission, but just to inform those around them of what they're doing. Their signature is peace. So signature meaning that when they're working in alignment and they're doing things that are aligned with like their drive to create, initiate things, then they feel peace. And if they're not aligned with that, if they're following things that they think they should be doing, listening to what society is telling them to do, then they'll feel anger often. Okay, generators. Now, I don't know if this slide is going to work either. I think I put too much on them and now it's not working, so sorry. Let's see. Okay, so we'll just go by whatever. So generators, as I was saying, are they have a defined sacral center, which is that energy center. So they have a consistent source of energy. So generators are thought of as like the doers, like the workers of the world. Like they are the ones that don't necessarily initiate things or create things from scratch, but they're the ones that are going to have the energy to see it through. And for generators, it's really important that they only do things that lights them up, that they feel joy and excitement about doing, because they have energy to do things. But if they commit to things that are not in alignment with what really feels good with them, what lights them up, then they will feel drained and having to like drag themselves through it and exhausted, because they're not in alignment with what their energy is meant to be doing. If they are in alignment, if they are doing things that feel good, that excite them, that light them up, they can keep going and going and going. And actually for generators, it's important that they expend their energy every day. So meaning they have like this consistent energy that is meant to be used up every day. And I can definitely relate to this. So I'm a generator, and I love the feeling of going to bed at night feeling really tired from doing a lot in the day. Like I love the feeling of being busy or getting a lot done and going to bed feeling like that was a productive day. Like I feel tired, I'm ready to go to bed. Whereas other types don't have that consistent energy, so might need more rest. But again, it's not saying that generators don't ever feel tired, but if they're in alignment with what they do, they really enjoy what they're putting their energy into, then they have that consistent energy to go, go, go. And again, they're usually not the ones that initiate things. They can, it doesn't mean that they can't, but usually they're the ones that are going to put the fuel into it, that find a project that they love and they're like, yes, I want to invest in this. I want to work with this. I want to work for this person, with this person, and put my energy into this project that I love. And they'll generate that energy for the project to be fulfilled. So again, for generators, knowing what is in alignment for them is as simple as noticing if it makes them feel excited. So it's important for generators to say no to things that don't excite them, because if not, they will commit their energy to something that they don't want to do. And usually for generators, that means that they will see it out to the end, because if they've committed to something, they'll feel the need to commit and see it out to the end, but they'll drag themselves doing it because it wasn't something that was aligned with what their energy wanted to do. So generators are, again, 70% of the population, and that lumps in generators and manifesting generators. Their strategy is to respond, meaning they're not, again, really meant to initiate things. They're more meant to respond to things that come into their world, into their aura. And this can be things like, they read about something like human design and they're like, oh, this interests me, I want to learn more about that. It could be that a friend invites them to go see a movie and they say, yes, I want to see that, or no. Really important, or a key way for generators to know what to respond to is usually they get like a gut feeling, like yes, this is good for me, or no. Like a lot of times they explain it as noises like or which again I can relate to as a generator, like having that just a response that I don't even consciously think about sometimes, but it's like, yep. And it can sometimes be a not now, like I don't know, it's not a no for sure, but it's a not now. So if it's not a yes, it's either not now or no. And really good for generators is yes and no questions, which again, I totally relate to. When I heard this, it really made sense for me. I do really well as a generator with yes and no questions versus open-ended questions. So if someone asks me, what would you like to have for dinner? That's hard for me to respond to. But if someone asks me, would you like pasta for dinner? I might say yes or no. It's very, yes, like responding yes or no versus open-ended questions. Signature, again, so when they're in alignment, they feel satisfied. But when they're not in alignment with what lights them up, and they're saying yes to things that they don't actually want to do, then they'll feel frustrated. Okay, manifesting generators. So again, this slide is not working, I apologize. Manifesting generators are similar to generators in that they have that defined sacral center. So they have consistent energy, but then they also have the what do you call it? Defined throat center, which is characteristic of manifestors. So they have, it's a hybrid between manifestors and generators. They have that consistent energy and they have the ability to initiate things. So manifesting generators are often referred to as the people that can do many things at the same time. They're kind of the go-getters. They're just constantly jumping from one thing to another, finishing one project, going on to the next, and they have lots of energy, lots of ideas. If they're in alignment, I should say, because they could be out of alignment with their energy, with like saying yes to things that they don't actually want to do, and then they could feel burnt out. They could feel frustrated. So I'm talking here about manifesting generators that are in alignment, saying yes to only things, yes to only to things that are feel good, that excite them, responding to things from their environment, but also they have that ability, unlike the generators, to initiate. They might have ideas and have that motivation, the communication to bring it forth. And again, it's not saying that generators don't have that ability, but just based on human design, this is what they say, you know, manifesting generators have a little bit more of that ability to initiate, and then they have that energy to see it through. So I just, with this slide, I wanted to point out that the difference between a generator and a manifesting generator is that they have the defined sacral and the throat center. So what defines a manifestor is having that defined throat center connected to one of the bottom centers. Again, I don't want to go into too much detail about this stuff because I know there's a lot and I don't want to confuse us too much. But I thought I would throw that in just so you're aware of, like, why would someone be a manifesting generator versus just a generator? Okay, and then projectors, we said, are about 20% of the population. And they are the ones that are usually like having the bird's eye view. They're good at being the like managers, the like CEOs. They see everything from above, and they're really good at like managing resources or helping people see how to do things more efficiently. So looking at the big picture and being able to delegate, being able to make things run smoothly. Projectors don't have that defined sacral center, so they don't have a consistent energy source, just like the manifestors. So they often are not meant to work the same way that generators do. And this is where I think human design can be really helpful for people looking at, you know, work and relationships and thinking, oh, why don't I have the energy like that person? Why do I feel tired? Why can't I work a 9-to-5 job? Human design shows us that not everyone is really built to work those like 9-to-5 jobs or work for someone else or work, you know, standard hours. Projectors, based on human design, are more fit to have more rest in between their bursts of energy, to manage and delegate, but to really follow that energy and not necessarily be in like a 9-to-5 job where they're just constantly having to work those hours regardless of their energy levels. And for projectors, a really important thing is that their strategy is to wait to be invited. So projectors, you know, what I learned from human design, it says that their aura is quite like probing and will kind of project onto other people if they don't wait to be invited. So what this means, waiting to be invited, is like being asked to fill a role, being asked to oversee a project. They're not really meant to initiate and put themselves in the role. They're more meant to wait to be invited to be in that role, and then they'll be appreciated more. I do see that there's a couple questions in the chat, so I'm wondering if someone wants to unmute, if it's something that like is important that you think we should cover now, please let me know, just so that I'm not, you know, bypassing your questions that need to be addressed now. So for projectors, learning to preserve their energy and only guiding others who are ready to be guided is key. So again, if they try to push themselves onto others by like telling them, oh, this is the way you need to do it, I can see that you're doing it wrong, other people will be will kind of will be repelled by that. So projectors, it's important that they wait for the invitation, that they wait for someone to ask for help before they, even though they might, you know, be on the outside and see how things could be done so much better. If they try to force that onto someone, they're not going to usually be accepted in a way that they want to be. So again, what I just kind of covered is strategy, wait for the invitation. Signature, when they are in alignment, when they're waiting for those invitations, the right opportunity to go to an event, to speak at a talk or webinar or something, or to take a position with a company, then they'll feel success. But if they don't wait for that, if they try to force their outlook, their opinions, force themselves into something where they haven't been invited, they'll feel bitter. That's usually the not self theme. And then reflectors, which we said is a very, very small percentage of the population. It's about 1%, very rare. Reflectors have no defined centers in their chart. So actually, I'll go to the next slide. So they have completely open centers everywhere. So they're very, very like receptive and sensitive to the energy of others in all the centers. So they don't really have a fixed way of any of their energy centers, of like thinking, of communicating, like of processing their emotions. They don't have that consistent energy. So what human design shares about reflectors is that they're here to kind of mirror to society what we need as a whole. I think of them as like the very, very sensitive, sensitive is the word that comes to mind right now, but I know there's something else I'm trying to say. But just very like showing us, like reflecting back to us what we might not be able to see in ourselves. Now reflectors, based on human design, they're meant to wait a lunar cycle, meaning like 28 days before making a decision. So again, I haven't spoken to any reflectors personally. I don't know what this looks like for them, but based on human design, it's recommended that they really take time, 28 days or a whole lunar cycle, before making big decisions. Now, this doesn't mean like what they want to have for lunch, or what movie they're going to go see, but big decisions about like career or where to live. They're not really meant to just make quick decisions like a generator is. They're usually, again, based on human design, it's recommended that they wait a whole month to really reflect on what feels best for them, because they don't have definition in their center. So they don't have they don't have any fixed ways of processing and kind of getting that signal back about what is right for them. And then their signature is surprise. The not self theme is disappointment. So again, if they're in alignment, they'll feel more of this surprise, excitement. If they're not in alignment, they often feel disappointment. But again, I can't speak too much on this one because I haven't met any reflectors so far. Maybe there'll be someone in this group and they can share more about this with us. But that's what I know about reflectors for now. Hopefully the next slides will work. So next we're going to, yeah.
Real quick, on those slides, you also had aura, but you didn't really talk much about those. Will you be later?
Yeah, thanks, Lori. Thanks for that question. I do have slides which I made about aura, but then I put them at the end because the presentation there's just so much information, and I wanted to make sure that we got through like the basics so people have a better understanding of like their chart. They can kind of understand some of the things on there. We can definitely, if people want to stay on after, we can go through aura. It's also not an area that I know so much about, but we can definitely at the end go over the slides and I can share what I do have on those. And then if people have questions, I can try to answer them. Does that work?
Thanks. I'll wait. Yeah.
Also, how's everyone doing? Do you have any questions? Do you need like a break? Am I going too quickly with the slides?
I think you're doing great.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Hi.
So next.
Oh, sorry, I have a question. Sometimes I think I am a generator, but sometimes I'm thinking, oh, but I can still initiate anything I want, and maybe this comes with the age and experience, and or maybe I'm just in between. Is this possible?
No, it absolutely is possible. And I'm glad you bring this up, just to really reiterate that human design, it's not meant to be like put you in a box and then that's it. You stay in that box and you can't go out of that based on what human design tells you. It's meant to be a guide. It's kind of like a generalization, but it doesn't mean that, you know, just because you're a generator, you can't ever initiate things. It's more so like it's saying the majority of people that are generators are gonna be more in that realm of like having energy to do things that excite them, but not necessarily be the ones that like start up a business from scratch. But it doesn't mean that generators don't do those things. So you can absolutely, you know, be a generator and have those ideas and be the one to get it going and also the one to complete it. Yeah, absolutely. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, so next we're going to talk about authority, which is like based on human design, it's how our body's wisdom communicates with us. It's our unique way of knowing what is correct for us or not. So there's 4 different types. Sorry, there's 5, but I don't know. Oh, there. I have 5 different types of authority that we're going to cover today. And this is based on the centers that you have defined. So this will hopefully make sense when we go through the slides and you'll learn a little bit more about what each one means. But the way I understand authority is like, again, it's not all or nothing. It's just, you know, if you have certain centers defined, it's saying that you'll likely make the best decisions if you listen to that response from your body. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so first let's talk about emotional authority. So emotional authority is when you have the solar plexus defined. So it's found in people with a defined solar plexus. So solar plexus is on the, well, what would be like if you're looking at it on the right-hand side, this one that I've circled here. And it's gonna be a way of making decisions based on emotional clarity. So usually people with a defined solar plexus center or emotional authority it's suggested that they wait about 24 hours before making important decisions. So again, it doesn't mean things like what to eat for dinner, what movie to watch, but more so about, you know, taking a job or not, making a big move, going into a relationship, things like that. Because what they say about emotional authority is these individuals kind of ride an emotional wave, and they're best. It's best for them to wait until those emotions settle before they actually make a decision, without, you know, being just making a decision in the moment, being clouded by those temporary emotions. So people that have defined solar plexus is usually going to be manifesting generators or generators. Actually, sorry, I'll take that back because I think it could be others too. What I meant to say here was that if someone has a defined solar plexus, so this center that I've circled here, then they are automatically going to have emotional authority. If someone doesn't have that center, then they'll move on to the next available, like it goes in an order. So if you have number 1, which is the solar plexus center defined, then you have emotional authority. If you don't have that filled in, but you have the next one on the list filled in, then you have that authority, which hopefully it'll make sense as I go along. So then we have sacral authority. So this is what I was saying by if you don't have the solar plexus, but you have the next one in line, the sacral center defined, then you're going to have sacral authority. So this is present in generators and some manifesting generators with a defined sacral center. So what I was saying before is that to be a generator, you always have, to be a generator and a manifesting generator, you always have the sacral center defined. That's one of the traits of being a generator, is having that consistent energy. And having this as your authority, the sacral authority, provides direct yes or no response in the moment. So it's often felt like a gut feeling, like when people say, you know, that gut feeling, trust your instinct, it resonates for people that have sacral authority, but not so much for others. So this is, again, why human design can be helpful in some regards for helping people understand why some things might make sense for some people and not for others, because not everyone is, based on human design, you know, built the same way or has the same energy flowing. And so for generators or manifesting generators, people that have sacral authority, it makes sense to trust that gut feeling, to trust that or feeling. Whereas someone else, like the emotional authority, doesn't necessarily have that. And so they might need that 24 hours to respond with their emotions. The other thing I wanted to say about this one, which now I'm forgetting, so I'm just gonna, was that it often, no, I lost what I was gonna say, sorry. Trusting their gut response is crucial for them. So as I was saying, that gut feeling. Oh, this is what I was gonna say, is that the sacral authority is meant to be kind of, like they can make decisions in the moment usually. They don't have to wait the 24 hours like the emotional authority. People with a sacral authority can often, you know, just trust that gut instinct. Sometimes it's I don't know yet, and that can happen too. But usually they'll get that gut instinct right away of like, oh yes, I want to do this, or no, this isn't a good idea, and encourage that they trust that. Okay, then we have splenic authority, which is going to mean you don't have your solar plexus filled in. You don't have the sacral center filled in. So now the third one in the list is the spleen center, the splenic authority. And this one is found in manifestors and projectors that have, like I said, open sacral and solar plexus centers. So it's not going to be, generators won't have this type of authority because they're always going to have the sacral center defined. With this center, I don't have this center, like this is not my authority, but I've heard from other people that do have this authority that it's kind of fleeting. So it's not a very like always there response like is the sacral authority. This one is more, it comes and goes, and it's more linked to intuition. So like what I've heard from the instructor from the course that I took, she would say it was kind of, it's so subtle, and it was kind of here sometimes and not always there. So it was sometimes tricky to follow that instinct because it wasn't reliable. It wasn't a reliable source of answers. So the way, you know, I found it described on the internet is that it's kind of like it whispers. So it's not necessarily a very strong like yes or no that a sacral authority would have. It's more of like a tapping into that intuition. Yeah, it's based on instinct, because the spleen center where this is located is kind of a center for like instinct, for health and wellness, safety. So it's usually going to pop up more, this authority. It usually shows up more when there's like a threat to safety or health. Usually that's when people with splenic authority will have more like a stronger like knowing that it's a yes or no for them.
Andrea, can you say that last part again? The spleen and relating to health?
Yes. So the spleen, and again, I do have slides at the end that we can, if we have time, we can go over. But the spleen is a center associated with like health, survival, like instincts for survival. So what comes out of there, like, is the people that have that authority are usually going to have a stronger yes or no response, or like a, not even yes or no, but a knowing that something is for them or not for them when it's based on something to do with like their health or safety. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
And what I can share about that center too is like, so I have a lot of gates, a lot of activation in that spleen center, and it's usually associated with a lot of fear. So people that have a lot of activation in that center will have typically, based on human design, will have more fears around like self-preservation, health, well-being, or will be more interested in those. I shouldn't say just fear, but like we'll have more of an interest in health and well-being. And again, it's not saying that other people don't have that center defined or activation in there. It just means that some people might have more of those activated and might be more sensitive to that, or it's something that they're just naturally more drawn to. And again, we can definitely talk more about that at the end. We can go over the other slides that I have. I know I'm putting a lot, like I'm presenting a lot, and it's a lot of words, so I didn't want to overwhelm everyone with too much information, but if people are interested, we can definitely go over it at the end.
Could you go back just 1 second to the previous slide? I just missed something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Manifestors and projectors. Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome. Okay, and then next we have self-projected authority. So this is going to be found only in projectors with a defined G center. So this is the G center, which is related to like identity and self-direction, like kind of identity, knowing who you are. And again, we can talk more about the centers at the end. But this inner authority is about communicating their truth and is deeply rooted in self-expression. So I had someone in the group that I was part of last year, the course that I took, that was a self-projected authority. He was a projector and he had this authority. And when he learned the traits of this, he really resonated, because he said he really finds help in talking things out. So having a sounding board, having someone to just, share what's on his mind, talk things out. And then usually he would get the answer just by listening to himself, like letting himself talk it out and have someone listen, and then hearing back what he's saying, he would get clarity on what's right for him. So that's my understanding of people that have this self-projected authority, is that it's important for them to be able to talk out loud and hear themselves, get their thoughts out into words, and then reflect back on what they just said and then get clarity from that. But again, there's a lot more to this authority. I'm not an expert in it. It's not one that I identify, like that is in my human design chart. So more than that, I don't know too much about it. But this is going to be only in projectors.
You had said projectors are typically managers, and I can tell you that there must have been one of my managers who was this, with the self-projected authority, because when I repeated his words back to him, his whole body and face lit up in shock, like, oh, that's what I said? I was just like, okay. Good reminder to do that.
Yeah, and yeah, thanks for sharing that, because again, I think it helps to show us that learning about human design, at least in my experience, has not only helped me understand some things like that resonate with me, and that I'm like, oh, I can move forward doing more of this, because that's actually in alignment with what human design says, and it feels good to me, it feels true. But then also people around you, people you work with. And this course that I took was about, working in alignment with your type. And it also taught me that as like employers, they can look to have like a well-rounded team by looking at people's human design and their strengths and what they bring to the table, and how they best, are like how they communicate, how they would like to be communicated. So anyway, without going too much in a tangent there, I think it can be helpful in a lot of ways, not just for yourself, but also for how you relate to those around you. Okay, and then the last authority we're going to go over today, the last authority, is the ego manifested authority. So again, this is going to be someone that doesn't have any of the previous centers defined or colored in. So they're going to have that heart center, or the ego center, or will center. It's called several different things, but this one's unique to manifestors who have a defined heart center. So again, it's that little triangle off to the side. This authority signifies an innate ability to make decisions based on what they desire, what they have the willpower to accomplish, and what they want to or can commit to. But again, with any human design type, it's really important that they're aligned to what is right for them versus listening to what society wants them to do or what they think they should do. And I don't think anyone in my course was this authority, so I don't have a lot of information on this one. But if someone is this authority, like if they see that on their chart, it's written that their ego manifested authority, and they relate to anything that's on the screen right now, feel free to share, because I'd love to learn more, and I don't know much about this authority. But another thing that came up when I was searching about it is that the primary tool is their voice. So using that voice to express things, and making communication very important. They're able, like we were saying with the previous one, the projector with the defined G center, saying things out loud, voicing what's on their mind helps them to make the right decision. So does anyone want to share anything on that? If not, we can always come back to it later once we have more information about, like I said, at the end, we can go over the centers in more detail. Okay, now we're going to move on to profile, which I think is really fun to learn about, because I think a lot of people can resonate with these things, because it's in human design, it's kind of thought to be as like the personality. So on your human design chart, you probably saw these like lines on the sides here, and we have one that says design and personality, or it might say earth and sun, or conscious and unconscious. So we'll kind of go over what that means right now. So we have, oh no, hopefully it works. Okay, so we have the first number. So sorry, what I should say here too is profile refers to the two numbers. So everyone should have on their chart received, it'll either say profile or just a number. It'll be like, for me, it's 6/2. Everyone will have two numbers. So the first number for me, it will be the 6, refers to the personality or sun number. So this is going to be on, when I'm looking at it this way, on the right-hand side, personality. And this represents our conscious characteristics, the traits that we're aware of in ourselves. So this is based on human design, what I've learned, it's what gets formulated at the time that we're born, based on astrology and everything, all the energy at the time we're born. This is our personality side. And it's usually the side that we, like when we learn about this number and what the traits are of like that number, for me, a 6, it's usually the ones that we really relate to. And we're like, oh, I see this in myself. Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. Whereas the other side, if we look at the design side, this is more of our, I think it's just having a hard time loading. Sorry. Okay, maybe it's not going to work, but I'll just go over it. So the design side is our unconscious side. So it's said to be developed about 88 days before the day we're born. Now, I don't know all the details about this, because I understand, some people are born prematurely, or, if you're not born, if you're born, before or after your due date, like several weeks before or after, how that affects, this 88 days before the time you were born. But that's what I read from human design, that the design side, which is this side here on the left, is the unconscious. So it's developed well before you're born. And this represents, this is the second number, sorry, in your profile. So like for me, it would be the 2. I'm a 6/2. So it would be the 2. It's usually things that you don't necessarily see so much in yourselves, but that other people pick up on, that easily see it in you. Characteristics, like as we go through each profile number, you might not resonate with it so much and be like, oh, I don't really see that in me, but other people might. And the way that those numbers, where those numbers come from, like for me, the 6/2 is the decimal point on in the first 2 lines. So under personality, this person has a 35.4 and a 5.4. So 4 would be their first number, and then it'd be 4/6, because on their design side, they have 0.6 and 0.6 in the top 2 lines. So if you're curious, that's where that profile comes from. This person is a 4-6. But anyway, I don't want to confuse you guys too much, so we'll move on to what each profile is. But there's 6 profile numbers, so 1 through 6, and there's 12 different variations in which those profile numbers can show up. So you can have, like, I'm a 6-2, you can have a 4-6, you can have a 5-2, a 1-3, like different combinations of those numbers. But what we're going to do now is go over each. Now they come up. Go over each line and kind of go over some of the traits of each number. So line 1 is referred to as the investigator. So if you have a 1 in your profile in those 2 numbers, this means that this is one of the characteristics or one of the personality traits that might show up for you. And again, if it's the first number, it's usually going to be traits that you see more in yourselves, that you resonate. Whereas if it's the second number, it's coming from the unconscious side. So it's usually traits that you might not see in yourself, but that others might pick up on more.
Sorry, Andrea.
Yes?
I'm just getting a little bit confused with the numbers on the chart, because there's like 4 numbers on each side, unless I'm reading it wrong. So
Okay,
could you just go back one and just, sorry.
No, that's okay. Oh, yeah, just the back
on the
previous
on the
slide is
main
okay?
screen, yeah, because
If not, I can go back to the other, like a better slide, but let me see if it.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to understand if it's the inner numbers that are next to the body or the outer numbers. And then there's obviously the 2 columns on each side, but yeah, so
Yeah, you know what?
you've got 6, 5, 5, 6, and then, so could you point to which ones you're kind of referring to?
On this, in this picture, it's actually not written on here.
Oh.
So I see how it can be confusing because there's just so much to human design. These numbers are different. Let me go back to a previous slide where you can show it in.
Thank you.
And thanks. No, I appreciate you
I was
asking.
thinking I'm missing something.
Yeah. Let me. So if I go back to this slide. Here, so this is what we were just looking at, like it was a snippet of this. But if you go to the side here, it says profile. This person is a 1-3 investigator and martyr. So yeah, I could have put a better picture in that slide, but it's not. What I was saying before is that, see, this person has 0.1 and 0.1 in their first 2 lines here. So that's where this 1 comes from. And then they have a 0.3 and 0.3 on this side on both lines. That's where the 3 comes from. But
okay, gotcha.
It should be written like that at profile 1-3. Do you see that on your chart now?
Yes, loud and clear. Yeah.
Okay, so let me.
Sorry, what are the numbers that are next to the arrows? Because I don't have those on my chart.
Yeah, not all human design, like the free charts available online will give you those. It's a lot. We won't go into detail about those right now, but it refers to things like your motivation type, your best suited environment. Like if people want, after, I have a really good handout that I got from a teacher last year based on those arrows. And you can read more about it, or we can go over it some other time, but it's pretty complex. I don't want to confuse people more than what I might already be confusing them with what we're going over today. So we won't worry about those charts, but some free online resources will give you detailed charts with those arrows, and some will leave that stuff out. That's why you probably don't see it on yours. Does that make sense?
Yes, thanks so much.
You're welcome. How's everyone doing with time? Like, are we okay to keep going? We don't have too many more slides left in like the original. I think the last thing I wanted to go over today was these 6 profile lines. So maybe like 10 more minutes. And then if people need to jump off, they can. Does that sound good? I mean, they can jump off at any time, but that's how much I have left. So line 1, the investigator. So this is a person who seeks a solid foundation of knowledge and understanding. They're the ones that always want to be, learning more, feel like they're not satisfied with how much they learn, that there's always more to be learning. They tend to be introspective, always wanting to understand things better themselves. They really thrive on learning, and they want that security from having that solid knowledge base. So I think of people that, just want, like, maybe tend to be more perfectionist, or really just constantly wanting to research and know every single thing about something before they, present or talk about a subject. And I do want to be clear, because this brings up something in my mind of, like, I relate to some of these things, and I don't have a 1 in my profile. But just because you don't have a 1 in your profile, like the numbers that we just discussed, you can have 1s in other areas of your chart that bring up these qualities in some ways. It's just not the most like significant for you, but it can still show up in your chart. So I want to make that clear, that even if you don't have a line 1 in your chart, you can still resonate with the investigator qualities and have those in you. They might just not be as strong as your profile numbers, okay? They have a natural empathy to understand human behavior, and so they're often drawn to understanding this and working in areas where they can learn more about human behavior and concepts. And for line 1s, people that have a line 1 in their profile, for career relationships, they're often drawn to, shoot. So they're often drawn to situations where they are valued and appreciated for their love of learning. So maybe like researchers, professors that have a lot of opportunity to research, to learn, as part of their work. They are best suited to seek environments that encourage curiosity and value depth of knowledge. And they're what's the word, like, it's recommended that they lean into roles or relationships that allow them to investigate, study, and build a firm foundation. So basically saying, finding that space where your interest in constantly learning, studying things is valued and appreciated, where you have that room to expand, to grow, to research things a lot, so that you don't feel rushed to, okay, you learned it, that's it, you have to move on to the next thing. Like, it's saying those are situations where people with a line 1 are often going to thrive in. And again, if you have it at the beginning, so like 1 is your first number, you might relate more to this. If 1 is your second number in your profile, you might not resonate with this as deeply. Any questions on that? Or anyone identify with that? We can talk more about it at the end. Okay, then we have line 2, which is referred to in human design as the hermit. So people with a line 2 are often like, they like to spend time alone. They like being in their own energy. So they find joy in spending time within their own aura, doing whatever they want and following their natural rhythms. I have a line 2 in my profile, and I definitely resonate with this. Like, I really like to just do what I want to and kind of see where my energy goes. And I like spending time alone. I don't like being interrupted. So, here it says dislike interruptions because they prefer to stay in their own flow without external pressures or distractions. But it also says that the more they retreat, the more attractive their aura becomes to others. So in this course that I took last year, the professor, or the course instructor, was saying that line 2s, like the hermits, are usually the ones that are, inside doing things on their own, and other people are looking inward from outside and wanting to know what this person knows, like wanting to learn from them, like sees their natural talents. But the line 2, the hermit, doesn't really see it in themselves. So they're They're happy to just go about doing their own thing. And they don't really notice that they have these natural talents, but other people from outside will see it and they want to learn. But that hermit, the line 2, doesn't really want to be interrupted or distracted. So they're kind of just want to be left to their own energy and to be able to do their own thing. And line 2s, people with line 2 for career and relationship. Let's see if it'll load. So they often thrive when they have space to retreat. So ideally seeking roles where the activities come naturally to them, and seeking environments that respect their need for solitude and self-reflection when they can effortlessly express their gifts. So again, as a line 2, I can relate to this, just needing that time to like be alone, to be in my own energy and figure out what feels best for me and follow that versus being told what to do and when. So I don't know if this relates to others, and again, we can talk about it at the end. But those are some of the things that are suited for line 2. And again, you might have this number in your profile, but you might not relate to it as much if it's your second number. For me, it's my second number, and I resonate with it a lot. I like my alone time. Line 3 is often referred to as the martyr or pioneer. So line 3s, based on human design, are said to be the ones that really like to experiment and learn through trial and error. So they are often not satisfied with simply being told information. They need to experience things firsthand to learn it for themselves. So in some of the information that I've learned from podcasts or other people that are line 3s, they say they're usually the ones that want to like take something apart completely and then rebuild it. They want to learn how everything works. A lot of times they're like engineers, people that just want to not necessarily work in a group setting. They just want to take something and run with it and figure it out on their own. Also, I read that line 3s, can sometimes have a lot of challenge if they don't embrace their need to make mistakes in life. Like if they see it as a failure, as if like they're always, messing up and they can't do anything right, they might, be hard on themselves. But that's actually the way that they're meant to, work in this world and learn by trial and error, and not have everything work out, but then learn from that and keep trying and discovering new things. So they're sometimes referred to as the martyr because they can often feel that they are pushing against the status quo of what other people say and they feel resistance. But then they're also referred to as pioneers because they often pave the way forward with new approaches. So they come up with new ways of doing things that other people might not have because they weren't willing to do that trial and error and experimentation.
I can say I definitely resonate with that. 3 is my personality number, and I always said that I just well, my mom would say I learned the hard way, and and I keep trying to like learn from other people's mistakes, but apparently I typically need to learn them myself.
Exactly. Yeah. It's said that you don't really want to take what other people tell you as the truth. You want to figure it, like you want to find out for yourself if it's true or not. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Lori.
Thank you.
So in terms of career and relationships, sorry, did someone else want to say something? In terms of career and relationships, for line 3s, may notice that you learn best through trial and error and thrive in environments that allow you to experiment, make mistakes, and learn from them without fear of judgment. So being in environments that allow for that room for trial and error, that are going to allow you to try things. And if they don't work out, that's okay. Like, it's not like, oh, it has to be this way. And if it's not done at this time in this way, then you're fired, kind of thing like that. That sounds like it would be stressful for a lot of people, but maybe especially for line 3s. So it's ideal for them to look for roles where they can where your resilience and ability to adapt are valued. And if you have freedom to doing things the way that you want to try them out, like I said, being able to break things down and then put them back together in a way that seems best to you. These are, situations and environments that are considered optimal for these line 3s to thrive. Line 4 is referred to as the opportunist. So these are the people that really thrive with community, with networking. They're often referred to as like the person that, oh, I have a person for that, that will always have someone to refer for something, that loves making those connections. They really value their community, their environment, their kind of circle of friends or family, their network. They love giving back by serving others with information and providing solutions. They really just, they're natural connectors, like to share what's worked for them. And they really feel satisfied in sharing their wealth of knowledge. And they really, they really thrive in environments where they can be themselves, because they feel unhappy where in situations where they don't get to be themselves and really be their authentic selves. And for line 4s, optimal career and relationship, you may find that they're most likely fulfilled when you can build and maintain strong networks, thrive in environments that recognize and appreciate your ability to connect with others and create opportunities. So it's ideal that they seek roles that value social skills and an ability to form solid supportive connections. Line 5 is that often referred to, or it's referred to in human design as the heretic or solution architect. So these are the people that generally have a solution when it seems like nothing else is available. They're described as the natural teachers and problem solvers, challenging against conventional systems, structures, and values, beliefs that do not fit into a practical framework. So they typically have a keen ability to identify where things are not working, and then they can offer revolutionary or practical solutions that other people maybe have not thought of, but that benefit everyone. Their aura is very magnetic to those that are in undeniable need, at rock bottom, or facing a crisis. So often these people are working in like healthcare sectors, people that are, just drawn to people that are really looking for someone to help them. They're often caregivers in some way, really good at just helping people and finding solutions when it seems like there's nothing else that a person can do. But their tendency is to project outward rather than inward. So they have to remember to also not just always be taking care of other people, but also take care of themselves and put their needs first and respond to only what feels right for them, versus feeling like they always have to help everyone, and just doing that and then putting, like, compromising their own energy and their own well-being. And for line 5s, some ideal career and relationship, like, not advice, but I guess we'll say advice for now, is that they notice that they prefer roles where they can offer practical solutions and challenge the status quo, and be in environments that that appreciate their ability to provide new solutions, where solutions haven't been thought of for things, and where they're able to share that without being, I guess I would think of like in an open-minded situation where people are going to be open to new solutions, and where their leadership and problem-solving skills are going to be valued. And then line 6, the last of the numbers in the profile, is referred to as the role model. So they're known as a role model because over time they develop wisdom and maturity, becoming embodied examples of what it means to live with personal integrity. So people with a line 6 in their profile are said to go through a 3-part life process that includes a period of trial and error, a time of retreat and observation, and then becoming a role model based on the wisdom they've gathered. So I know a little bit more about line 6 because it shows up in my profile on the first number. So I've read a lot about this one. For me, it really resonates, but I'll share, the 3 parts they say, usually from like birth to about 28 to 30 years old is part 1 of a line 6 journey in life. And it's like the trial and error period. So it resonates, it looks more like a line 3 where they do a lot of experimentation. They might make a lot of mistakes, have a lot of setbacks or failures. And then the second phase or process of this line 6 is that time of retreat and observation, usually from about age 28 or 30 to about age 50. And it's said that this is a time for line 6s to really like retreat and just reflect on everything that they've learned in the first part of their life, from say things that they did that they thought didn't go right, or experiences they've had, to really go inward, reflect, and learn from that. And then if they're in alignment, if they've done that inner reflection, then the third part of the role 6 process is this, coming out at around age 50 or so, and having all this wisdom from what they've learned in their lifetime so far, and sharing it with others, like sharing their perspective, the wisdom that they've gained from their own challenges or setbacks with others to help other people move forward, and really role modeling like what it means to live with integrity and do the inner work. Like I said, I resonate with this a lot. I'm in the second phase of that right now. And I thought it was interesting. I tried to find Dr. Joe Dispenza's human design chart. I mean, not like I didn't put in the information because I don't know what time he was born or anything, but I looked online to see if other people have come across anything. There was one person I found that did a talk on Instagram, and she says that Dr. Joe is a 6-4, so he's got this 6 in him, which I could see that because I don't know, without going into too much detail about Dr. Joe, but I think most of us here know him, how he's gone through some challenging things and did a lot of reflection, and now he's really coming forth as this role model, like helping people with all the wisdom that he's gained from his lifetime. Anyway, kind of went on a tangent there, but yeah, I really resonate with line 6. I don't know if anyone else here has a line 6 and can resonate with like going through those chapters in life, or feeling like they need to act a certain way because other people are watching, or yeah, like looking up to them. And something else I've heard in human design referred to like the different profile lines is like this analogy of in different areas of the house. And line 6 is said to be, sitting on the rooftop, looking at everything else. They're kind of like having the bird's eye view and watching everyone else. And then they'll gather that information and share what needs to be shared with everyone. So for career and relationships, suggested that line 6 or people with line 6 find environments and situations that are aligned with them so that they can live in integrity and serve as an example for others. They thrive in environments where wisdom and long-term perspective are valued. And it's important for them to look for roles or connections where they can embody the lessons they've learned and inspire others through their wisdom. Okay, so that is the end of what the slides that I have prepared, like for all of us to go together. As I said, I have more slides after this if people want to go into more detail. But I know I talked quite a bit there. So if people want to, ask any questions or want me to go back to any slides, please let me know.
Hi, Andrea. It's Christina here. I've been dying to ask you a question, but I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't checking the chats, so I apologize.
Totally fine. So I've been trying for years to find out my time of birth, and I couldn't. My mom went through like a 2 days labor back like 40 years ago in Romania. She can't remember. She thinks it's on an afternoon. For like 25 years, I thought I was born on a Thursday. And finally, when I went to university, I checked on a computer and I was born on a Friday. So, But also I tried, like my cousin works in the same hospital where I was born, and she couldn't find my time of birth. Can we do this human design without the time of birth?
That's a great question. Again, I'm not an expert on human design. What I've learned is that if you know the date and place where you were born, do you know those things?
Yes, the place and the date, yes.
What some people suggest, if you don't know the exact time, is to play around with it. Maybe first you do like very early in the morning. You put a time of like, say, like 12:30 a.m. And then you put 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and then you put 6 p.m. in the afternoon, and then maybe close to midnight. And you look at those different human designs. Sometimes they won't vary too much within the same day in terms of like your type, profile, but the things that will vary more is like the gates that are filled in, the channels of incarnation, like there's so much more to human design, but a lot of more of the smaller details. But what I've heard people suggest is kind of looking at those and then seeing what resonates the most with you. Like if they are really different, if one is a projector, if you were born at say like 1 p.m. you're a projector, but if you were born at 11:58 p.m. you're a generator, and you resonate a lot more with the generator qualities, then they usually say go more with that and then play around with it around that time. There might be more sophisticated ways to go about it. I'm not sure, but that's what comes to mind right now. That's what I've heard some people do when you know they don't have the exact birth time.
Okay, so the time is not that, it doesn't have to be that precise.
No, the more
Of course,
precise,
best.
the more accurate. But
Okay,
when you
okay.
don't have time to work with, you can kind of play around with it and see, first of all, see how much they differ if you change the time
Yeah.
from like early morning to late at night. See how much of a difference in the chart it shows up as.
Okay.
And then if it is a big difference, play around with the times. If you have any idea, like, oh, I know it was sometime around lunch, I just don't know if it was 12 p.m. or 1:30, you can play around like in a smaller time frame. But if you don't have any idea of the time, you don't know if it was early morning, late night, then you can at least look at the different, put in different times and see what it comes up with, and then try to see which one resonates most with you based on like you reading about the different profiles and authority.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry,
perfect. I'll try that. Thank you.
I can think of now.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? I can go through the chat.
What does it mean when the channel lines, they're partially filled? Like half of it's filled, half of it's not, or in different directions?
Yeah. Great question. So, so each center here, why don't I pull up, let me pull up a slide so I can show it better. So each center has what are referred to as gates. So if you, depending on how detailed your human design chart is that you got from the internet, it'll probably have circles with little numbers in each center. And those are gates. And when you have energy leading out from it, I don't know, go back here. It will be either half filled. Sorry, it will be half filled when because it's energy coming out from one center. But then if that energy connects with the energy of another center that also has that gate coming out, then they'll form a complete channel. So I'm trying to get back to the slide. Let me see if I can explain it a different way without the visual. You will, okay. I don't know how to get back to the screen. You'll have
in the chat, so
let me see if I can do this. Okay, I won't see that. So basically you have your filled in channel. Say we're talking about the sacral center, because we talked quite a bit about that one. And you have a gate in there that has half the line filled in, like coming out of it, half of the channel filled in. That means that you're going to have some energy from that gate. And again, I said this a lot at the beginning, but there's so much to human design. And each of those gates actually represents different, like there's fear gates, like I talked about in the spleen, there's a lot of fear gates. In the solar plexus, sorry, in the sacral center, there's a lot of gates related to like fertility, to like life-giving energy, even some that are talked about, like I heard that if you have, if one person in like a relationship has the one gate coming out of the sacral center and the other person has the connecting gate, and it forms a full channel, they have a lot more like fertility and often will have larger families if they want to. Like it's easy for them to have children versus other people that don't have that connection with their partner. But there's so much to go into with gates and channels, but basically it's energy coming out of that center. And then if energy from another center connects with it, it forms the full channel and those centers get defined. I know I'm not doing a great job of explaining it, but hopefully that helps without going into too much detail, because if we started to look at all that stuff, it's a lot, like the gates and the channels. Again, there's things intertwined with each of those gates in terms of like what gates you have also help determine like how you're best suited to work. Things that, like I learned about one gate, I think coming out of the G center, it's like gate 10, I think. And if you have that gate and fully filled in with like the spleen or the sacral, it determines your outlook on life, like having more of a like this idea that people should do things a certain way, and if they're not doing things a certain way, you're more judgmental towards them. I don't know, there's so much there, and I'm sorry because I'm not doing a great job explaining it, and I wish I could get my slides back up, but it's not happening right now.
We put some in the chat to show
Questions?
like like screenshots of our chart to kind of show asking about. But there's also like this color. Clearly, the color seems to mean something, because at least internally to this chart, because like these channels have kind of multiple colors in the same channel where there is a filled line. See, Laura has it too, where it's like.
Sorry, say that again.
Well, it's not just like filled or unfilled too. There's like actual lines, like color, like variation in the color in a filled channel.
So what that is like, say you have, I'm looking at this picture that Lisa put in the chat, and you have like gate 59 going to gate 6. Does everyone see that in the chat?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you have half of it, it's fully like a dark purple, and then the next half is like half dark purple, half light purple. What that means is that there is the energy is coming from either your like the sides. Remember when we were looking at the chart and we said there's the when we're looking at profiles, there's the conscious side and the unconscious side, like the side that more like your personality that you obtain when you're born, and then the unconscious side that happens like 88 days before you're born. So that's referring to where this energy is coming from. So on this chart that Lisa put the snippet from, the darker purple represents one of those sides. I don't know which one, the personal, or like the sun side or the earth side, like the conscious or unconscious side, and the light purple represents the other color. So this is telling us that one of those gates is only being defined or filled in by the conscious side, and the other half of that channel or that gate coming from the 6 energy is coming from both the sun side and the earth side, so the unconscious and conscious side. Does that make sense? It's it's hard to explain it without a picture, like a better picture in front of me, but it's just saying that the energy is coming from both conscious and unconscious, where it's divided in two colors, and from the one gate it's just coming from one side.
That does make
Sorry.
sense. The arrows at
Yeah.
the top are the one set, the unconscious set is the light purple, and the
Okay.
conscious set is the dark purple. I just noticed that. So that's probably what that means then.
Yeah, it is.
And then are these numbers related to the numbers, like the traits that are numbered on the other side, on the conscious unconscious, or are they a totally different set of numbers?
The numbers on the arrows.
Are the numbers in the center? Well, I don't have numbers on my arrows. I'm not really sure what those arrows mean without the numbers, but I'm asking the numbers in the centers, like the 59 and then the 6 on the other side. Are those at all
Yeah,
related to the numbers?
yes, yeah, like if you see on the sides of your bodygram diagram, you have those like the lines going down with all like the 36.2 or whatever, all those numbers. Yes, that's what that refers to, the gates in you that are active and where they're active. Something, again, I'm not an expert in this, but something to do with like based on where the sun, the moon, the planets and everything were, those certain gates are more active, and that's why you have them filled in or half filled in. And then also, again, without wanting to confuse everyone too much, but then you have like certain gates that are specifically activated, and some of you might have got this when you downloaded your human design chart that say like your gate is the gate of the flying phoenix or something like that. I don't know, and it refers to like kind of a soul purpose or mission that human design says you're here to fulfill in life, or something that you're like more prone to learn in this lifetime based on that gate that is active. Like I said, there's so much to human design, and like this is just scratching the surface. And I know you probably have a lot of questions, a lot of them probably that I don't know the answer to. But hopefully it gave you a little bit more of an understanding as to like how human design can be a tool. Again, it's not like a solution for everything, tells you exactly who you are and you should follow everything to a T. But me, I found it to be helpful in just like learning about my profile and that I'm a generator, and it makes sense because I like, I have energy. I like to expend it every day. I don't necessarily initiate too many things. I like to do work that I'm aligned with. Things like that then can then help you also see why other people aren't like that. Like I used to think about people that I interacted with, like, how can some people be so closed-minded? Like I have an open head and Ajna center, and I think that I'm very open-minded to like hearing about new things, learning things in new ways. And some people that I spoke to didn't seem that way. And I used to think, how can people be so closed-minded? But then I started learning about human design, and I realized, oh, it's not because they're being stubborn and they just don't want to see things another way. It might actually be in the way that they're designed. They're meant to have more of a fixed way of thinking about things and not be as open as other people. So I found it helpful in those ways.
Can I ask, is there any relation, or can you use this in any way when you have a center that has health issues, where you have kind of continuous problems in that center?
Yeah. So from what I learned in this course that I did last year, we went in depth into having a healthy expression or unhealthy expression of each of our centers. So just because, like, for example, myself, I have a defined heart center, and some of the qualities that were associated with a defined heart center were like confidence, like self-worth, like knowing your self-worth, feeling confident in your decisions, things like that. And a lot of it, I was like, oh, I don't relate to any of these. Whatever, it just didn't really resonate with me. And then I started learning that you can have those centers divine, but you can be not aligned with like living in your true authentic self and not expressing them in a healthy way. Meaning that you might have been conditioned by parents, society, other people to go against what feels right for you, or to believe things that make you feel less than, and diminish that natural instinct that you have to be confident or whatever it is in each center. And then that can absolutely express itself in physical manners too. It's like, you know, what we learned through Dr. Joe's work or other teachers that teach about letting your energy flow and listening to what feels best for you, trusting your inner guide. If we're working against our inner wisdom and our guides because we're thinking that we need to do things a certain way because everyone else does it that way, or because we were taught to do it that way, if we suppress that energy enough, then that can show up in physical, at least this is my belief, it can show up in physical symptoms or blockages in the body.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There's quite a bit in the chat that I haven't read through everything. So if as I'm going through, if like you want to speak up on something that I haven't addressed yet, please feel free to.
I wanted to ask what do the columns mean at the side?
So like if you're looking at it straight ahead, the one on your right is going to be the like personality side, the conscious side. So it said that's like all those numbers refer to, I think it's locations of like where, because there's symbols and I think they have to do with different planets. The top are the sun and the moon, I think, and then different like Mercury and different planets where they were aligned when you were born. So the one on the right side is said to be at the time that you were actually born. And that comes through as personality or conscious side, things that you're more aware of in yourself. And then on the left hand, like if you're looking at it straight on the left hand, is the like more the design side, the unconscious side, which is said to have come into place 88 days before you were born. So looking at where all the planets and the sun and moon were aligned 88 days before you were born, to set some of that energetic blueprint already in motion, or like set it in stone, for lack of a better term, like to set it, make it concrete at that point 88 days before you were born. And that's going to refer to more things that are unconscious in your traits that other people might pick up on, but you might not pick up on as much. And again, I don't know all the details of it, but you might see, if you're looking on those numbers, you might see that you have a lot of like 0.1s in there, even though your profile is like a 6-2. But then when you're looking at the placement of those planets on those charts or whatever on the side, and you see a lot of 0.1s or 0.4s, that means that you're going to have a lot of qualities of like a 4 line or a 1 line also in your personality, but it's not the dominant. Like for me, dominant is 6-2, but then I also might have a lot of like 1s or 4s in there that also come through. Does that help a little bit? Mm-hmm.
Do the numbers kind of relate to like energy, like frequency, or like because I'm thinking, can we use these in our like blessing of the energy centers? Like, can we actually apply these numbers in some way to each energy center?
In what way? Like how, like, can you give me an example of how you would apply the number to your energy center?
Yeah, so is this kind of giving us the information about what energy is going on in our body with these numbers? Like, is this?
I don't think so. If I understand your question correctly, I'm trying to think about it. If the numbers relate to how our energy is in the energy centers.
I think what, I'm not sure if it's correct, but I think what Laura might be saying is that does it tell us if a certain energy center is healthy, and if we can use that to kind of like strengthen it or boost that center if there's a weaker energy center or anything? Does that make sense, Laura?
I love that question, but what I kind of meant was, if we see these charts and then we look at the lines on the body that kind of look like the energy centers and like the meridian lines, can we apply are these numbers telling us literally what the energy is in our body? So is it kind of like a reading of our actual energy centers?
No. So now I understand your question better, and thanks, Sunyana. Sorry, how do you pronounce your name, Sunyana?
It's Nana, but if it's easier, you can call me Sue as well. Make
Okay,
life easier.
sorry. It's from my understanding, again, I'm not an expert on human design. From my understanding, no, those numbers don't relate to like the health or vitality of your energy centers. My understanding is that everyone has or has the potential to have healthy, fully vibrant energy centers, whether they're defined or undefined. That whether they're defined or undefined does not mean that they're healthy or unhealthy. It just means that you either have a consistent way of energy flowing in that center or you don't. You're more open to like picking up on other people's energy. What determines the health of the energy centers is whether you're in alignment with what feels best to you, trusting your authority. So if that's a yes, no response for a sacral authority, or if that's, you know, listening to your emotional authority and waiting those 24 hours if you're emotional authority, trusting like that inner wisdom. So again, what we learn from a lot of other modalities, not just human design, is like trusting your inner guide, your intuition. When something really feels like a no for you, trusting that and not doing it, even if your mind is telling you, oh, but I should do this. Living in alignment, that's what's going to keep those energy centers healthy and flowing. So did that answer it? Like, so those numbers on the side just have to do, again, my understanding, have to do more with the alignment of like astrology, like things in astrology at that time, and are helping to like determine what your profile is, what your type is, and all that stuff, but not whether you're going to be healthier in your energy centers than someone else. Does that help, Laura?
Mm-hmm. It does. It does.
Anything else? Sorry, I wasn't even, I closed down my presentation and now I think it's gone. I don't know where it went.
I have so many questions I want to ask you. You know the numbers in the actual energy centers on the body?
The numbers in the actual energy centers, like the gates, like the little numbers in circles?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to try, while you're talking, I'm going to try to find the presentation again, okay? Because it'll be so much easier with us, like if we have
So if you know human design and you kind of like studied the numbers, could you look at this chart and understand what all of the numbers mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot. Like there's, if you want, after I can put in the chat the book that, so the person that I did this course with last year, she recommended this book that was originally, I think it's written by now I forget his name, the inventor Alan, who later changed his name. I think it was written by him. It's not the one I originally talked about at like in the first slide, but she recommended that book, and she said it's a very thorough explanation of like everything human design. I never got it, but if someone's interested in like learning more about it, that's the resource that was recommended to me, so I can share that. Now, are you seeing my screen? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. What I'm going to do is go to this slide, and maybe this will help us a little bit. Okay, go ahead and ask.
When we moved into the age of Aquarius recently, do these numbers ever shift around, or are they literally stuck?
I think that they are concrete like that. Again, I'm not an expert, so I'm not 100% sure about this. I think though that they are concrete, and based on numbers in here, like I know people that are more versed in human design look at like the time of your Saturn return and things like that to determine when specific like more important life events will happen for a person. And they talk about like for line 6, which I know more about because it's one in my profile, that when I mentioned, they go through that first period of life till about age 28, they say, because at around age 28 is when they have their first Saturn return. And so they have this shift in their energy field. But yeah, from my understanding, those numbers, they stay the same throughout a person's life. Because it's looking at, yeah, I'm pretty certain, confident saying that, because it's looking at where things were when they were born and where things were 88 days before they were born. And see, when I was talking about here, it'll tell you like incarnation cross, right angle cross of consciousness, and you can look that up on Google and find out more information. But that's usually like the main theme or like lesson that people are here to learn in this lifetime based on human design. And then these arrows, so if you do have these arrows, it talks about things like motivation, cognition, digestion, environment. So what kind of, like for me, I remember like digestion, I looked it up and it's like, I do better with like liquids and cold foods, whereas some people will do better with like hot foods and like heavier foods. I don't know, things like there's so much that you can look into with human design.
Is there anything to like left and right? Like if you're looking at the chart, is one side representing the left side of your body and one side the right, or the masculine and feminine? I'm guessing masculine and feminine, like sun is probably the masculine side, which would be.
That's a great question. I don't recall hearing anything about that, about like feminine and masculine. It's more so like conscious, and unconscious. Trying to think, these, depending on the way the arrows are pointing, it does mean different things, but I don't remember if it had to do with, if it was consistent or what it's based on the arrows. Again, I can share that handout that I have from someone that I follow, like her podcast and stuff on human design, talking about the different arrows, and you can just look up like, okay, my top left hand arrow is pointing right and I have a 5 there, so you can look up what it means. To be honest, I don't remember all the details, so I don't want to say something and then confuse you guys more with the wrong information. So yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Let me see. Look in the chat. Thanks for staying on this long.
Andrea, I'm curious if you've how long you've been into human design and using it to understand yourself and your relationships, and have you charted your family, and has that really have you significantly benefited from this knowledge?
That's a great question. Thanks, Lori. I would say I honestly, I'd heard about human design maybe like 2 years ago, but I don't really think I like followed it much. I just kind of maybe listened to it on a podcast or something. But then last year, I think I took this course because it was specifically looking to help people figure out like using human design to align with work that is like aligned with their characteristics based on human design. So that really intrigued me. I was like, oh, I'm figuring out what I want to do next in terms of work, and maybe this will help give me some direction as to like what I'm most aligned to do. And once I was in the course, like I said, I had a lot of moments where I was like, wow, this really resonates. I see this in myself and this makes sense. Like, and also started to see traits in other people that like I said about the being open-minded versus not being so open-minded. Then I did figure out everyone in my family, like I did all their charts, and it was interesting. Like now I really take notice. Like I did my siblings and my sisters-in-law and my nephews and nieces, and we're almost all generators or manifesting generators, and there's only 2 that are projectors. And I have one nephew that's a projector, and I noticed like the way his energy is different from my other nephew. How he's a child, so he wants to keep going and going. He doesn't really notice when he needs a break or needs like rest, but then he gets to that point and he's just overly tired and doesn't know how to regulate his emotions. And I don't know, I see it as like he needs more rest than my other nephew who's go and is a generator. I see it also in the way like my one brother is very he's a manifesting generator, and he's definitely like initiates. He has lots of ideas, lots of things going on at the same time, just lots of projects. I'm a pure generator. I don't really do the initiating. Like I don't feel like I'm an entrepreneur so much and like a but I like to do things that I'm like that I feel passionate about, that I have energy for. So in that way, it's helped a lot, just I guess to have a better understanding or just a different awareness of like how I interact, how other people around me interact. Also, I've always felt very like sensitive to other people's energies, and just learning I have a completely open solar plexus, so I really, based on human design, really pick up on other people's energies, and other people in my family don't have that center open, so it just gave me more awareness around like, okay, maybe it's not just that I'm like really sensitive and empathetic, but like it's also, human design has shown me another possibility of why this might be, because I have that center open, so I'm kind of designed to pick up on other people's energy. Work-wise, yeah, it's kind of just reminding me of things I already knew, in sense of like wanting to do something that I'm really passionate about. Like I know I have lots of energy, I like to do things, but like I want to do things that are really like aligned with my values, important to me, and that I feel lit up doing. But like I said, there's so much to human design that I don't know, and it is putting this presentation together just reignited some of that interest that I have in human design, and you know, I've thought about like reading charts for people, like diving deeper into it, but I don't know, we'll see where it takes me. Does that answer it, Lori?
Yeah. In fact, I was just thinking, you know, when I read my own chart, it's a lot of like, oh yeah, I knew that about myself, but for some reason I needed to read it through this thing, or like through astrology, or the Myers-Briggs test, if anyone's ever done that, you know. And the meditation I was having this morning, it was kind of like, yeah, we need that repetition, we need that repeating in order to remember,
Yeah.
in order to remember what we came here to remember, you know. And I just find it a little laughable, like in a positive way, you know, like, ah ha ha, isn't that funny? I needed confirmation about the thing that I already knew. Well, that's great.
Well, but I think, yeah, there's so many ways that we can learn, and so human design is one of those tools. Like, and it, you know, might not be for everyone. Like when I told my family about it, a lot of my siblings were like, oh, that's, you know, like, what's that? They just look at your birth date and time, and like, that sounds made up and like BS. And like, cool, that's, you know, that's what they believe in at this time in their life. Like they don't really resonate with it, and that's fine, and they might never, and they have other tools to help them remember or come into alignment with what's best for them. And I like that human design overlaps with a lot of things, like the chakras, the like astrology, looking at all that stuff. And yeah, for me a lot of it does resonate, but it might not for others, and it might not be the tool that's, you know, best for them, or it might not be something they want to explore. That's absolutely okay. I saw someone ask in the chat, and I'm curious, now we don't have that many people on anymore, but does anyone know if there was a reflector in our group? If anyone here is a reflector?
Didn't seem like it.
Yeah, they're very rare, from what I've heard anyway. Cool. Anything else that I can possibly help answer?
Did you say that you were going to post the book in the I Am Frequency channel? Is that right?
Yes, I can definitely do that. Yeah. And if anyone gets it and looks more into it, I'd love to hear what they learn.
Andrea, thank you so much for putting this presentation together.
Yeah,
Oh, you're so welcome.
so much, Andrea. That
you.
was amazing.
Yeah, you
thanks,
did a
everyone,
great
for
job of
coming.
like pulling it all together in a simple way to get us an
Yeah.
introduction, I think.
Thank you for saying that, because yeah, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I put way too much words on some of these slides, and it's going to be like too wordy, and I'm going to lose people, but there's just so much to human design that I was like, well, I want to give them information, so trying to find a happy medium.
I feel like I want to read a whole book about it now.
Yeah, it's interesting. And when you start getting into like the gates, like I learned about, like I was saying before, some of the gates that I have. And now that I'm saying this, I just remember how much like there's different, there's like tribal circuits, there's community circuits. So if you have certain gates, like, or circuits like two channels kind of connected, it forms like a circuit, and then you're more prone to like be more like focus more on community and those people in your immediate circle, whereas if you're a different one, you're more thinking about like the greatest good for everyone and not your tribe. Like there's so much that goes into it, but a lot of the channels too I learned about, I really resonated, like that when I was talking about the 10 that connects to somewhere in the spleen or the sacral, talking about like this deep the sense that like people need to do things a certain way, and if they're not, then it's kind of like, oh, why are they doing it that way? They're not doing it right. And I really resonated with that, like this kind of this judgmental quality of like, why would they even think to do it that way? They're not doing it right. So just learning those little things and seeing like, oh, maybe that's why I'm like that, or one of the ways. Also learning about like the spleen and all the fear gates that it has. I have a lot activated in there, so that just helped, like, and my interest in this lifetime so far, a lot has been on like health, well-being, like personal health, the body, like physical. And then I learned about the spleen and how much it is related to that, like innate like survival and overall well-being and safety. So it's just really cool to learn about all those qualities and then be like, oh, okay, maybe that's why I seem to be more interested in this than my brother or my mom or something. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm also interested to learn about the guy who discovered all of this and that process.
Yeah, the little that I learned while like doing this presentation and researching is he was Canadian. That's what it said online when I read about it, and he was living in Ibiza. And I think I read that he was like a regular meditator. He was already into a lot of like spirituality practices. And one day in the late 1980s, he started channeling this voice that explained human design to him.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Andrea.
You're so welcome.
Thank you
Thanks
so
everyone
much.
for being here. It was really nice to spend time with you guys. And I would love that idea of having more like chat sessions so we can get to know each other, or at least I can get to know more of you. Because I other than like what I read in the chat, I don't know any of you in like conversation like this. So
Yeah, we will.